quickly. Okay, it's recording. All right, so welcome, brothers and sisters. My name is Raphael, also known as New Rich. Welcome to the podcast, New Rich, New Energy. And very excited to have this amazing brother sitting in front of us. His name is Mehmet. And just a little bit before we get into it, this brother here has been researching. I'm going to let him speak on it, on kind of his story, because I believe that's important for our audience to know. But anything that comes to syncretism, whether it's esoteric, whether it's occult, whether it's numerology, gematria, astrology, this brother here has been teaching and I've been learning. And like I said before, we get into it. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, Mehmet, kind of like, the beginning, the story, and what kind of got you into this field.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, brother, for having me on your platform. I really appreciate it, and I'm so happy to meet like-minded people so we can exchange ideas and teach each other. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's not always about one person learning, trying to teach someone else. Everyone can teach each other something at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So I'm Mehmet. I've lived in London all my life. I was born and raised in the UK. And I would say, well, I guess you could say my spiritual journey started the day we was born. But if I want to be precise, the year was 2013 where I really started diving deep. The way it happened was I went to Amsterdam in 2013 for a break, like just a small city break. And I don't know if people in the United States are aware, but Amsterdam in Europe has been one of the main cities that have legalized cannabis. So there's a lot of coffee shops where you can go and use cannabis. But because I went to Amsterdam on my own, I didn't kind of have no purpose for going. I just went just to get away from the usual life over here. But when I went there, before I'd went there, there was like a lot of research on about how cannabis was good for curing cancer and how it was very medicinal. So I thought, you know what, I need to socialize with people. I need to get into my holiday. So I just went to the coffee shop and I bought a pre-rolled joint. And once I had that joint, it just, I don't know, it kind of brought such a new life out of me. And I was talking to people and I felt like I was always quite not reclusive, I'd say quite shy, and I wasn't very confident. But then once I started experimenting using cannabis, it just opened up all these portals. I just started researching, and I was always someone who was into history anyway, but it was more of like the normal history of wars and what had happened in the past and that stuff. It wasn't very spiritual or esoteric. So once I got into using cannabis, I started researching and I watched the video of Gematria and Zeitgeist, and I started getting into Graham Hancock and looking at like the pyramids and stuff like that. But the real rabbit hole started in 2015 when I came across Know Thyself Part 2 by Santos Bonacci. And then when I watched that video, brother, it was like, wow, it just blew my mind.
Life-changing.
Yeah, like with the Zodiac and how it related to all the holidays, and he was explaining the etymology with the words. And I always say this in all my interviews, that the effect was almost like being slapped out of a dream.
Right.
Like when I watched his video, it was so groundbreaking. It's like wow, everything kind of just made sense. And then from that point onwards, I just went on my own rabbit hole, and I researching astrology, astrotheology, etymology, numerology, gematria. Looked into all different shapes of the earth, flat earth, obviously. Then I've looked into concave earth. I've looked into square earth. I've looked into I've recently got into a lot of more health related stuff, like looking at natural remedies and I changed my diet in 2015 and went from meat eater to plant-based and
Absolutely.
vegan. So yeah, I've like researched so many things, and with me being a Scorpio sun sign, like when we like to dig really deep. So yeah, I don't just look at them on the surface. I try to look at things quite deeply, and yeah, my journey's just been like since then till now, and it just continues. I'm always researching. I'm always looking at new stuff, and yeah, I don't know. I guess that's why I'm here. It's just I have a passion for it, and
No, absolutely. And I appreciate that. And we kind of have similar. All I do is research. If I'm not with my kids or cooking, I'm researching. I'm on the laptop.
yeah,
And I kind of want you to elaborate on that because for those who are watching, whether this is first time new knowledge to you or for those who, are kind of getting into this understanding, as you said, you're a Scorpio, with sun
yeah,
sign in Scorpio. For those who are watching, I know some think that our zodiacs are irrelevant or have no importance because I believe with the day and age that we live in, they've made it more Hollywood-like in the terms of horoscopes. So they've taken a science that's beautiful, and turned it for evil.
yeah.
But if you're to give a message or kind of elaborate on that, how important is it to understand your zodiac, your electromagnetic field makeup? Like, if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, definitely, brother. I think it's very important to understand it because you start to understand who you truly are and where you truly have gifts and where you truly have weaknesses. So once you look at your chart, you can kind of, if we all knew our charts from when we were younger, life would be so much, I think it would be so much less stress free because we would know that we'd be good in this area or we would go for a career in this area rather than just going by what your mum and dad wants or how society shapes you to do particular things just for the money or whatever it is. Obviously, we're all unique in what we want to do, but yeah, I think learning astrology and learning your own personal constitution is very, very beneficial. Like for me, example, I don't have a lot of earth placements in my chart. So that tells me I need to be a lot more grounded and work on my groundedness. And because sometimes, as you like can probably see from my research, I'm in my mind and I'm in the heavens and
Right.
you get what I'm saying. And like that's probably why I do get so deep into the esoteric stuff and the spiritual stuff because it shows in my like constitution. I have like 40% fire in my chart. Although I'm a water sign, I actually have more fire in my chart.
Okay.
So I've got 40% fire, 20%. I think 40% fire, 25 water, 25 air, and 10% earth.
Okay.
So once you understand these this part of your chart as well, you can understand like why you react the way you are, or like why you're interested in certain things. Like for example, the element of fire in astrology corresponds with spirituality and mysticism. So that explains to me why I am so interested in those type of subjects. So I would say like learning your birth chart and learning astrology and the way energy, it's just understanding how energy works and the cycle of nature. That's all it is really.
Right.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like in simple terms, that's all what astrology is. But obviously, like there's a philosophical or occult element to it because of like the symbolism with the ram and all the different signs have symbolic meaning. So, like, I think because of the type of society we live in, which isn't very spiritualized and philosophical, when they see that type of thing, they think, oh, this is all rubbish or it's all like airy fairy stuff. So, like, that's why I think also a lot of people get turned off by astrology because it's been kind of portrayed as being like a bit, how can I say, I don't know what the correct term is.
I like to say Hollywoodish. I don't know why I say that, but they
Yeah,
turn,
it is. Yeah, yeah, I suppose so. But
as a form of entertainment instead of really as a form of really understanding who you
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, in that sense, definitely, brother. Yeah. It's just like, oh, you're just a Scorpio, so
are.
you're
Right.
like this. But that is like so simple because obviously you got to take into consideration your rising sign, your moon sign. Every single planet is like a different person in you. They're all like different. You could look at it that way, like how the moon is your emotional personality. The Mercury is your the way you communicate. Venus is the way you love and your pleasures. Jupiter is your morality. Saturn is your discipline and structure. The sun is how you express yourself. So knowing what each planet means and which sign it's in, it's like I said on a previous show. I see astrology as like spiritual mathematics, if that makes sense. It's like blending different energies and knowing what this planet means in this sign, or knowing the aspects of if two planets are opposing each other, it causes a harsh angle, or squaring, it causes, whereas 120 degrees, a trine is a good angle, and they create harmonious effects in your, like, it's so deep. Like, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
that even me to this day, like, I know it obviously, but I've only been doing this like for like 5, 6 years. Like, so my knowledge in comparison to someone like Santos is like nothing, if that
Right.
makes sense. Do you get
Right.
what I mean? Like, he's been doing it for however long he's been doing it. So we're, but although like I know a lot about astrology, I've still got so much to learn.
No, absolutely. It's a never ending journey, brother. And just like you said, like when I started understanding the constitution of who I am, because I have a rising sun in Capricorn and my moon's in Cancer.
Yeah,
So reflecting now, understanding that knowledge, now I know why some of the things happen, some of the decisions or some of the things I'm doing now. So it's like I try to tell people when I do their readings, because I'm using it more like to heal people in a natural way, like you said. I,
exactly.
yeah, I've changed my diet, no meat, um, plant-based, because now you start to understand the spiritual side of what you're doing, of physical and spiritual death. But I use it, and you can really pinpoint, you know, illnesses or conditions
For
that people
sure,
have strictly off their sign, right? Or do, right?
for sure. It's like you've got a sun and moon opposition like me as well. So my sun is in Scorpio and my moon is in Taurus. So we've both got sun and moon opposition.
Right. Opposition. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
no, I appreciate you elaborate on that. So, I know you're a big researcher when it comes to ancient wisdom. That's how I like to put it.
Yeah.
Um, and watching your videos, one thing I can tell you guys who are watching, brothers and sisters, is that there's a lot of, I'm a student and a teacher as well. So, as Mehmet, but there's some teachers out there who are like, they teach. And when you hear truth, I feel like when you're in the presence of that, you just sit down and listen. And he has this amazing ability to explain in a simple form, or like just clarity about what topic he's researching about. So I know you have a big passion when it comes to like gematria, when it comes to things of that nature.
Yeah.
Kind of explain to the people who aren't unaware of this, but does that play like a play in everyday life? Gematria, numbers, letters, like what's the significance? Does it not matter, or oh,
It's a good question. It, I guess it does on a very subconscious level play a part. It might not be apparent to like the everyday person, or it wasn't apparent to me until like recent times, if that makes sense.
right?
But for me, like knowing gematria, knowing etymology, and knowing all these occult sciences, to me, all it does to me, it just gives me a better understanding of this matrix we live in and why things are the way they are, rather than just something is something. But with me, I need to know the root of why something
Right.
is there. So that's why like connecting letters and numbers like it's like a yin and yang in itself, because numbers are quantities whereas letters are qualities. Do you get what I'm saying? A
Oh,
number is
absolutely.
just a number, whereas one word can mean many different things.
As in
So
syncretism, yeah, Adam is one, Eve is two because
yeah,
he multiplies, correct.
so
Right.
like I would see numbers as the masculine concept and words and letters as a feminine concept. That's the way I would interpret it. So like again, you see how there is a connection like with that yin and yang between numbers and letters. So like I'll give you a quick example of what gematria is and how the numbers and letters are connected. So for example, the word bi. So we know that means two, right?
Right.
So and in gematria, each letter has a number. So B is the second letter, and I is the ninth letter. So if you add 9 and 2, you get 11. So then what you do in occult science is you always bring something to a digital root, which means getting it to a single digit. So 11 is 1 and 1, which is 2. So the numerical value of the word bi, which means 2, is also 2, because 9 and 2, 9, which is I, and B, which is 2, equals 11. And then when you break 11 down, 1 and 1 equals 2. So the numerical value of bi is 2, and so is the letter, because B and bi means 2. So you see how there's a connection between the number and the letters. So it's just having a deeper meaning of what a number and what a letter is and how they have this like symbiotic relationship, if that makes sense. I hope I made that clear.
No, absolutely. And just like kind of going back to what you're saying, it's all energy, understanding the
Yeah,
energy of that quality and quantity. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
kind of like staying on this topic on gematria, because there's a lot of people I follow, things that I'm studying when it comes to gematria, and people are using it to decipher, to decode. In your research, what would you use like for somebody who's beginning or wanting to understand? Is it the Chaldean? Is it the
Yeah,
Hebrew?
I use personally the simple English gematria, which is just one letter is one. So A is 1. There's 26 letters. So A is 1 and Z is 26. So in between, every letter's got its number. But the thing is, Pythagorean gematria and English gematria are actually the same. But with Pythagorean gematria, it just goes 1 to 9 and then it starts back at 1. But it's the same as English because, for example, the letter J is the 10th letter in the English alphabet. But in Pythagorean gematria, it's 1. But the digital root of 10 is 1 also. So they're still got the same they're still the same in both systems, but the English one uses 1 to 26, whereas the Pythagorean uses 1 to 9. But when you do the digital root, they're the same anyway. So for example, the letter L is the 12th letter, but that's the value of 3 because 1 and 2 equals 3.
Right.
In English, but in Pythagorean, it just goes straight to number 3.
To the root.
That makes it's a shortcut version, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And like obviously, they're the two that I naturally use because they're the easiest. But like you have, do you know the researcher Marty Leeds?
Yes, I've seen a
Yeah,
few.
because the way he does gematria is it's like one two so 1 to 7 from A to G, and then from once you get to 7, it goes 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then it keeps doing this pattern. So there's different systems, but personally, for someone starting out, you've got to keep it simple and logical. So I'll just go with English gematria, or maybe whatever language is you speaking, you can look at that gematria as well, if that makes sense. But personally, obviously, because English is my first language, English gematria is what I study.
Correct. And You know, like you're saying, I'm a type of person too. I go to the root. I've always been a being Capricorn. I want to know the origin of something. Maybe I might not find it at the time, but the universe
Yep.
will present it to me. And I love, just like you said, etymology. And I'm a big proponent and a big speaker of that, because at the end of the day, when you hear somebody conversating on in a conversation on a topic, like, you can understand the intelligence level that they're at. And when you really just let them know, look, you really got to know your research and see what you're reading. The answers are always in the word. That's what I always
Yep.
say.
That is that is like, because I actually do music in my spare time as well.
Okay.
I rap as well. So I actually use that in one of my lyrics. I said it's all in the word, and it is all. Everything is in the word. Like once you read the word or you break it down in syllables, you can. It's like I do it all the day, and it all the time, all day. And what really helps as well is when you know a couple of languages, because it helps you sync it even better. Like
No,
me
absolutely.
knowing Turkish and Greek, I really find a lot of syncretism. Like I found one today. Like for example, the word for Aries in Turkish is koç, but we know Aries rules the head, and a coach is the head of a team.
Hmm.
But koç and coach is pretty much the same word.
Similar word. Right.
So
Hmm.
like just little things like that, and also with Taurus is the same. In Turkish, Taurus is boğa, and Taurus rules the throat. And the word for throat in Turkish is the same as ball, but just with a Z on the end of it. So it's boğaz.
Hmm. That's the beauty of it. Like
You
that's
get what I'm saying? So that only helps. That
right.
obviously I only know that because I know different languages.
Right. And plus, you're paying
So
attention and being aware and
yeah,
doing your
I
research.
love doing stuff like that,
Yeah.
brother. It's crazy. Like there's so many like for example, to tell the time is Sahat, well, which is Saat, which is Saturn, the ruler of time.
Yeah.
So
Father time.
like it's just there. It's just like Santos says, all is atum. Everything has that original root, but they're just slightly different. Like when it's
Right.
spread out.
Right. And that's kind of like a good transition there, because just a little bit real quickly before I ask this question, like, I was in a background where I was religious. I went to church. I had that experience. And then I kind of transitioned and kind of to like the new age, love and light, what I mean, on my journey. So I got to see different spectrums until, of course, lo and behold, Santos came before me. And I was like, okay, he put it all together. So for people who don't know what syncretism is, or all is a tomb, or this the study of animology, it's really atomic. How he says it now, it's atomic
Yeah,
language, which is the Taurus and the bull,
yeah.
Aries. Yeah. How would you kind of elaborate or express that to the audience on what is syncretism? What is the path of the sun? What are
Yeah,
we doing?
yeah. Syncretism, from my understanding, is unifying all fields of knowledge and theology, and yeah, like math, like connecting mathematics with words, and then you can connect science with alchemy, and it's just like kind of bridging the gap rather than expanding the gap, if that makes sense. It's bringing all fields of knowledge together and showing how, like, everything in different languages might have different names, but ultimately they all mean the same thing.
Correct.
So, like, I can give you an example of that. Like, I did on some research once, and I made a little chart. And what I did was I got 5 different languages, and then I wrote all the names of the days in all of those languages. So I had like English, Hebrew, Turkish, Vedic, and I thought, let me see if there's a pattern, like if that like all this atom theory is really true, and let me see if there is a connection. And the one I found, like, which was the most interesting, was like for Tuesday, which we know. Are you aware of like which planets correlate with which days?
I do.
So okay, so obviously you know Tuesday is Mars,
Mars. Yeah.
right? So in Turkish, um, the word for Tuesday is Salı, Sali. right? But also in Turkish, you have words like saldır, which means to attack or fight.
I see.
So that's connecting with Mars already. And then, but that word in English, salır, which is Sally, means action, burst, or rush. So that's also the qualities of Mars in that word. But then when you go to like the Indian language, Mars is called Mangalaya. But that word Mangal in Turkish means fire. So you can see how like it's all, there might have different names, but ultimately the meaning or the vibe of the word is the same. So they could even sound different, but their root meaning means the same thing. So that is what syncretism is looking at different things and finding their common root. That's how I would explain it. So the same with religions, like how Santos explains how Christ is Krishna, and like Radharani is Mary, and
Very right.
yeah, and you know, and just all these different connections. And once you do that, you then realize that we all have a lot more in common rather than a lot more differences. Because like ultimately we're all talking about the same story, you know, whether it's Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Aboriginal, Buddhist, Vedic, Hindu. Ultimately, I know there's different variations and they have different traditions, but ultimately they're pretty much all have the same archetypes and the same stories. So once we realize that, and a person realizes that, I think it brings more peace to them because they know that we're just all the same. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, yellow, we're just all human, and we're just different variations of the same root. Just like the rainbow has a root, comes from the source, but there's 7 different colors, but they're all come from one root. So that is how I would interpret syncretism for people who don't know what syncretism is. It's just connecting everything.
No, that was beautiful. I appreciate that. Yeah, because when I explain that to people or people ask me questions, I think that's what it is too. Being able to articulate in the simplest manner, just very common sense of what the question is. And I think when it comes to syncretism, it does bring all fields of knowledge together. It's inclusive.
Yeah.
And being a researcher, maybe you can answer this question, but I believe at the end of the day, I know that when you really start doing your own due diligence and researching, like you're gonna eventually find the truth, not getting secondhand knowledge or
Yeah.
watching what's on TV, but really going diving in deep, reading, studying. What was kind of like one of your first materials or books that kind of led you on this path or
Um, in terms of books, I do read books. I do have a lot of books, but if I'm being honest, it's more like watching stuff. Like it's been more through watching videos or documentaries and things like that. But yeah, I'll show you like a few books I've got actually. I've got them here. So, like, for example, this is a book connecting Chinese astrology and Western astrology.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting book actually. Here, this is shamanic Egyptian astrology. This is like tells you what all the sign like in the ancient Egyptian like mythology, what who all the planets were and who all the signs were and the elements. And so it talks about like Set, Amun, Ra, Horus, and which planets they all correlate to. This is another good book. This is like about the Mayan cosmology and talks a lot in this about how they worship like the North Pole, the Pole Star and the Big Dipper and stuff like that. So this is a really cool book. But anyone who wants to learn like astrology, this is a really cool book. I really like this book. It's simple but in detail at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like it's got a really good balance to how he explains things. Like it's got everything from cell sorts to financial astrology, literally about birth charts, everything you can learn from this book. It's a really cool book. And this book is a book which I found in a charity shop. It's a really cool book. It has like stuff about like all the like stuff like I Ching and like dowsing. It's got about astrology, the tarot. It's like an about occultism basically. I found this book for like £1 in a shop, but it's a really cool book. But yeah, I have loads of other books as well, like things on chakras and I've got like I've got 2 copies of the Bible, copy of the Quran. I've got the Bhagavad Gita, which the Bhagavad Gita I haven't really read that much. Yeah, I've got a few books, but I've also got like a lot of PDFs that I read and stuff like that. See, with me, I'm one of them people that I don't kind of read a whole book. I'll take bits from different like, but yeah, it's not necessarily been one book. I'd say it's just been a mixture of everything.
I see. Okay. And kind of like touching on that too. I'm sure there's some people who are watching this, they heard the word occult or they heard the word esoteric, and maybe because of their understanding of how they are being taught now or in their environment or their religion, they think that's something of the devil. So whatever you want to put on it, if you want to kind of elaborate on that to kind of, shed some light on that.
Well, occult just simply means hidden. That's all occult means. It just means hidden knowledge. And esoteric means knowledge that comes from within. Because eso is a Greek word for home, basically. So esoteric means knowledge from the home, and exoteric means knowledge from outside. So simply like occult and esoteric knowledge, I guess they have like a kind of a symbiotic relationship because the hidden knowledge is inside of you, if that makes sense. So it's like there's a connection between the two. So yeah, esoteric knowledge just means knowledge within, and occult means hidden knowledge.
So it has nothing to do with
no, not at all. It's just
right.
Yeah,
I know
it's funny actually, because in Turkish the word okul without the T just means school.
Okay. So there you go.
So like, do you get what I mean? Yeah, it just means hidden knowledge. But you know what throws people off about that word is the cult at the end, because it's got the word cult in it. And when people think of a cult, they think of evil things or whatever. So I think they just get thrown off by the cult part of the word.
No, I agree, because I'm here in Florida in America, is like Western religion has really like kind of tainted or diluted all these truths that we're speaking of right now. And when I come across a brother or sister, whether they're Catholic or whatever denomination they claim to be, when I start speaking to them, you can already feel the energy, and it's like either you're going to get it or not. And I'll try to explain it to you in simple terms, you know what I mean? But it's, some people are just not going to get it. I know. And I know that's how it works, the good and the bad. But I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, how would you get somebody on this path? Like if they're to ask you, okay, we're talking about syncretism. Okay, we're talking about the sun. We're talking about the path on the ecliptic. Where would they start? Where would you give them a good like basis or like a good direction? Because it came across to me naturally because of the universe in Santos, like you.
Yeah. I guess, I know this is a very cliche kind of saying, but I guess it will come down to when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, if that makes sense. I know that is such a cliche thing to say, but I think that's what happened to us. I don't think like it was luck. I think it was just like our paths and our thirst for knowledge and finding the truth is that how we come across these truths, because we put our intention into it. So I think anyone who puts their intention and their pure-heartedness into it will come across the truth and come across their soul tribe, or their people that are like-minded to them. I think it's just putting out a particular energy, like just like you said, like we were saying earlier about mistakes. Doesn't matter about the mistakes. It's your intent that what matters. Do you get what I mean? Like even like me, for example, like when I switched from a vegan to from a meat eating diet to a vegan diet, like when you're initially doing it, you might make a few mistakes where you'll eat something where you didn't realize it might have had milk in it, or you're gonna make mistakes, but
Right.
but the intention was still there for us not to do that, if that makes sense.
Right.
So again, I think it all comes down to, once you've got the right intention, it will kind of come. But you know what, brother, in terms of, like sometimes say people like, oh, can you teach me astrology? I could teach it to someone, but ultimately the only way you're going to learn about it is by you doing the work yourself, by you reading a book about astrology and you watching videos and getting a pen and paper out and drawing a wheel and knowing what the symbols are. And you have to put the work in, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Is like, you've got to do it yourself. I mean, like, obviously you can teach someone or give someone, what is the word? Like, for example, like Santos set a foundation for us, and then we've took his foundation and done our own thing. So that's how personally you can teach people, is that you can give them the foundation, but ultimately they have to go and do the work themselves to really get it. And like, if they want to become like a master at it, or they want to know it really well, you got to put the work in. I mean, like, for 6 years, like from when I started to now, there hasn't been a day probably where I've not looked at no research, even if it's for 10 minutes a day, or stayed up and listened to a 5-hour show or whatever it is. Like, you got to put the work in. And once you do put the work in, you will get your rewards. And when I say your rewards, I don't necessarily mean money. I mean, you'll make loads of new friends. You'll become a part of like communities that are like-minded. So there's always good things to come out of it. Sorry, I hope I didn't ramble on. I kind of forgot the initial question.
No, brother, you're good. You're good. You're good. This is what it's about. And
Yeah,
just like you said, it's not about money. Like, that's another word too, is wealth. Wealth doesn't represent necessarily monetarily. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It can do with your energy, your spirit, your friends, your connections, relationships. So it's a beautiful word. I want to talk. We're got some time here, but I want to talk because with all this we're talking here about being plant based. I'm a big
Okay.
advocate. Yeah, no, I'm a big advocate, especially when it comes to the health. If you go on my social media platforms,
Yeah,
I'm always dropping gems, trying to help people change their diet, because it's not really, it's not to be a person and be like, don't eat meat. We understand the physical about it, but it's such a spiritual aspect to it as well. Can you kind of elaborate on that? Like what?
yeah. I'll elaborate on. I'll just give you my story of how I come to that point.
Okay.
Basically, in 2015, that's when initially I just started watching Brother Santos's work, and I remember clearly he said something about, if you eat animals, you'll be eaten by animals.
I remember.
And literally, brother, it couldn't have been 2 weeks after I watched that. I used to have a dog, and I was just taking my dog for a walk in the park, and my dog got into a fight with another dog, and I tried to split the fight up, but the other dog attacked me, and I got bitten on my arm, and I got bitten in a few places anyway. So the usual, I had to go to the hospital to get it stitched up and get an injection and all that type of stuff. And I went through so much pain in the process of it happening, and then thinking about what I just listened to 2 weeks ago, I was like, wow, is this a sign? So anyway, that was in like end of August, beginning of September of 2015. So as I'm researching and doing more things, and it's the idea of becoming like not eating meat is starting to really play on my mind now. I'm thinking, oh, you know what? Like, my heart's telling me I can't do this anymore. Because like you said, I'm realizing the spiritual consequences of it.
Right.
So anyway, it's come to like 2016 January. Just said, you know what? New start. This is it. And since then, brother, I haven't turned back. And this is my 6th year of being eating no meat, pretty much no dairy. Only maybe the first 3 or 4 months it was vegetarian.
Right.
But then after that, it's been vegan, and I've always been a big person, and it's not made me skinny or anorexic, or do you get, like people say, oh, you can't live off it, and I think that's a load of bullshit, really. Excuse my language.
No,
and and since then I've got so much more health conscious.
Right.
I've lost a bit of weight as well. I've always been quite a big person, but like since I've been vegan, like I've lost probably like maybe 30 pounds. So like everything is going in the right direction. I've still got, again, I'm not perfect. I've still got my bad habits that I need to work on, but I can definitely say I've improved in that field. And also I've realized as well, once you rely on natural substances as well, it's weird, brother. Ever since I've become vegan and I take like my daily supplements, like when I say supplements, I'll show you what I use.
Okay. Oh, please, yeah, share with the audience. I appreciate you sharing. This is going to help the audience.
Yeah. So, like, for example, this is astragalus root. This is good for your immune system. So every day I take in the morning, or even I take it twice a day, maybe once in the morning and then just once during another time during the day. This is astragalus root. It's like the Chinese use this a lot, but this is good for your immune system. So that's one. Next one I use is Hawthorne Berry, which is for like blood pressure and heart health. So that's another one I use. Then I've got, you can't really see this, but this is Burdock Root. You can't really see it because it's a bit stained, but this is also for like the digestive system and your immunity. This is oregano oil. Good for your anxiety and your nerves, and good for like killing viruses and flus.
Yeah, I was just speaking to somebody about that yesterday.
Yeah, so take this. This is amazing. Like, this was the first one I ever took, and ever since I took this, it was like, wow, like it really worked. And then this one, the cranberries for like your kidneys and the urinary, it helps clears like your urinary tract and stuff like that. So I use that. I use some, like, I don't have this all the time, but activated charcoal.
Okay.
Have you used that before?
I've never used it, but as like in a soap based, I have, but
yeah. So I don't. You're not supposed to have this every day. This is like maybe once or twice a week, because I think what this does is it has a negative charge. So when it goes through your body, it literally attracts anything. So if you've even got goodness, it will like get rid of that as well. So this is like a proper like cleanser. So like yeah, it's good just to do like usually, you know, when people take this when they have like alcohol poisoning and stuff like that to get rid of like
To absorb.
to
Okay.
extract the poison. But yeah, this is really good as well, just to have just for like a detox. Like if you want to do it once a week, just put it in, mix it with some water and drink it. And then also, do you know acai berries? Do you know what acai berries are?
I use that in my smoothies. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so yeah, I use the like capsules of that as well. So yeah, I've been like since I've like I said become plant based, it's helped me look into these type of things a bit more. Whereas I feel like I'm my own doctor rather than relying on. And since I've been doing my own thing, I've been fine as well. Like touch wood, like so. It just goes to show that like they've dumbed us down so much. They make us think that we need people that are professionals in like it's like they've made us intellectually lazy because we think, oh, we don't know about that, so I'll go to a doctor. Rather than all you need to do is take a bit of time to look into things. And you don't need to go to the doctor. You can be your own doctor and heal yourself. So, and it's in the words, like when you go to a doctor, they give you a treatment, which is treating your mind.
Mhm.
And when you're healthy, you heal thy. And you break the word healthy into two syllables, it's heal thy. So you can see even like what we was talking about, it's all in the words. Like
All in the word.
they're only treating your mind, they're not actually healing you.
And I appreciate you sharing that. And the thing is too is I believe like when it comes to like your consciousness and your knowledge, I know I felt it, and I'm kind of in that energy now. Is that when you stop eating meat, rotten flesh, you start positioning yourself for like more of that knowledge or that wisdom. Because
Yeah,
I truly believe that if you still have that diet of meat, you're not going to receive the things that you're wanting to receive, or even the confidence.
totally, brother.
You know what I'm
Totally. I
saying?
couldn't agree with you anymore. It's like you just become yeah, because you're resonating more with that higher frequency, so it's easier for you to download it, I guess. It's like I was talking to someone about this yesterday, because like obviously we have a torus field that goes through our head and out at the bottom and keeps turning. So obviously, the more denser our frequency is, the slower that will be. So obviously, we can't really download much. But the, the more the more higher your frequency is, the less dense it becomes. So then it becomes faster. So you can download more knowledge and understand more language. So totally, I agree with you.
Yeah, and like you said, like the Taurus field for people who are watching, maybe never even heard of that. But I'm gonna let you elaborate. But basically, we are, it's an electromagnetic
Yeah.
field that we have going around us, the Taurus, the bull. If you want to just quickly
Yeah. A
elaborate.
torus field is basically another word people use. It's like your aura. We can't see it, but if we was to go under maybe like a certain type of X-ray or filming, we would see that we have an aura around us, and that's just like a field. Um, it's like yeah. It's just I'm trying to think of a simple example to tell people of. I'm trying to make a simple analogy of a torus field, if that makes
I,
sense. But
I try to
I guess it
explain
would
it.
be like
It's like a force field. It's like
yeah, like your white, like for example, the wireless modem that picks up your internet. It's like a field where you don't need a wire to connect to it. It's the field coming out from the modem reaches you. So we all have this field around us, and depending on what we eat and what we put in our body, our field runs slower or faster. So yeah, it's just like the way I would explain it is like the bandwidth on your internet. So the more you take care of your body, the higher your bandwidth and download speed will be. Whereas if you've got all these viruses and all these illnesses, it's going to run really slow, just how your computer would run slow when there's viruses and it's clogged up. And, but when you clean your computer and it's organized and
Mm-hmm.
you do like scans on it and stuff, it runs smoother. So it's just the same with the human body.
Exactly. And like the words you're saying, like Ethernet.
Yeah, exactly.
Just elaborate on that, because I like to pick people's brains to hear your explanation. Like, we receive everything from the fifth element, which is
Yeah,
the unseen, the ether. Kind of touch on
yeah.
that real quickly.
So basically, again, this relates back to the Taurus field and like the whole concept of magnetism, dielectricity, and electricity. So the ether is what is known as the fifth element, like you said, is the unseen, or it's called counter space. So it's not in the physical realm. So, like, for example, our thoughts and our feelings are not inside our body. They're not inside our physical body. They're in our ethereal body in counter space. But our bodies are just like a screen. Like, for example, a television wouldn't work if it didn't have an aerial, if it didn't have a signal. So our personal signals come from the ether, but the body is just something that presents it in the physical world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the receptor, like the
Yeah,
receptor.
like so, like for example, when you look at a computer, that picture isn't actually inside the computer. It's just programming as ones and O's. It's a code, but you see it in front of you. But if you put your hand in the screen, that picture wouldn't physically be there. It's not there. But visually it's there, but materialistically it's not actually there. So that's the same as what the ether is. The ether is what has all the information, but it's not in the physical realm. That's
Right.
how I would explain the ether.
And that's how I try to explain it too. So anything we receive, like I try to tell people, you might have an idea or a creation. It's not, you position yourself to receive it from the ether. It's not yours, but you position yourself to know. Absolutely, that was
Yeah,
beautiful. I know we're coming up on the hour. I can go on for days. I
yeah.
love. I can talk about this all day long, but I just want to give you the opportunity to thank you for sharing your wisdom and your
No
knowledge.
problem, brother. It's a pleasure. And like, if you want to do it again, you want to do a part two, or if you want to like kind of
Pick a topic.
constant, yeah, and then we could do that one day. Whatever you want.
Oh,
Like,
I
do you
would
get
love
what I
it.
mean?
Yeah,
Just
you
let me
answered my
know.
question. Now, I would love to have you back, Mehmet. I would love to have
Yeah.
you back. I want to go ahead.
Sorry, brother.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, just let me know, and we'll do it. Like,
Perfect.
it's that simple, really. As long as I'm free and I'm not doing anything, why not? I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, it's always good to communicate with like-minded people and just exchange ideas and learn from each other. Do you get what I mean? So,
No, I appreciate
yeah,
it. I'd
for
love to
sure.
have you back, and we're going to make it happen. And, appreciate brothers and sisters for watching. As you guys know, this is just a platform, the truth and nothing but the truth, right hand pathers, giving you just another outlet just to spread your message from what you've been learning and researching out to humanity. And I just want to kind of give you the floor the last couple of minutes. Is there any websites? Is there any links?
Okay, so
I'll put
my
it in the
you my
description.
yeah, my YouTube channel is Conscious Minds TV. So on there you can see all my shows I've done with various guests about all the topics we've pretty much spoke about today. Um, yeah, for those, I'm also now instructing on the syncretismsociety.com virtual academy as well. So anyone who's subscribed to that, you can see exclusive lessons on there. Yeah, if you like hip hop music and you want to check out my music, you can do that on my YouTube channel and also on my Bandcamp page. And my artist name is DVG. And yeah, I've got a couple of mixtapes that I've done on there. It's just a hobby I do. Like, it's nothing I take it seriously, obviously. Like, I take my studies seriously, but it's not like a career I'm pursuing, if that makes sense. So yeah, and also I'm on Instagram as memdvg, which is MEMDVG. So you can check out my posts on there. mainly based on my plant-based cooking, because I'm also into like cooking and being a vegan chef, which is what I was doing for a while until I got made redundant. But yeah, so yeah, that's where you can check me out. And yeah, thanks
Perfect.
for watching.
Yeah, I'm perfect. I appreciate that. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys, the audience, brothers and sisters, for taking the time. And if you got to this point, thank you. If you have any comments, questions, go ahead and comment below. But I'm gonna go ahead and drop all your links down there so people can check out, whether your teachings, your music, or even your cooking. I do a lot of cooking myself on my Instagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, love to have you back. We'll make it happen. But I want
Peace,
to thank.
bro. Yeah, no problem. We can do that, man. No problem.
Okay, so I send you peace and blessings over there in London, and
Yeah, likewise, brother.
have yourself an amazing day. Okay, brother.
You too, brother. Peace.
Thank you.